Welcome. This video explores iterating through a list. So, last time we explored working with lists, accessing particular items from a list. But often a common task is if I've got a list of numbers, I want to do something with every single one of those. And I've got a list of scores or a different list of scores. I want to do something like go through and check each one, or go through and add them all up. So what we're going to explore is how we do that. Now, if I'm going to walk through a list, what I really need to do is say something like, I want to see the first item, the second item, the third item, and maybe the fourth, the fifth, through however many items there are. I need a counter, or what we call in computer science an index. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call it index. And I know I want to start with kind of whatever list I'm looking at, I want to start at item number 1. So the way I'm going to walk through a particular list is to set my index to 1. And now if I say, let's just have the character say each item in turn. So he's going to say item number 1 from my list of scores for 2 seconds. That says 5. I could also, instead of having the 1 there, the whole point of this index is I can do this with a variable, and I can have him say 5. And then if I increase that index, if I change it by 1, and have him say it again, he'll say 5. The index changes to 2, and so then he says 6. And then I change the index again, and so if I have him say one more time, he's going to say the third thing. We'll start at 1, then go to the second one, and then go to the third one. And no matter kind of this index, will always refer to the current item. And so, current item is 1, he says 5. Current item is 2, he says 6. Current item is 3, he says 8. Now, this is looking repetitive, and so hopefully already you're thinking, well, couldn't we do that in a loop? And absolutely we can. So I know I need to repeat this however many times there are items in this list. So let's repeat the length of my list of scores. And the thing I keep repeating is say the item, change the index. So let's get rid of some copies of that and repeat that. So we'll start at 1, we'll say item number 1, and then we'll change the index to 2, and then we'll say 2, and we'll change it to 3. All right, the same basic process. Item 1 is 5, item 2 is 6, item 3 is 8. And he changes the index one last time and gets to 4, but that's okay because after he does that, we're done with the loop. We've already repeated it 3 times, and so we don't actually try and access that 4th element. If I try and do that, if I have him go try and access the 4th thing, you can see he doesn't say anything. It doesn't blow up, so that's nice. We're kind of protected even if we try and go too far. Just nothing interesting happens there. You can actually see the border flashes red. Watch the scores, and you'll see the border flash red to indicate that there was a problem. So this is our basic recipe, and if I change scores to scores 2, he'll do the same thing. He'll say 1 is 10, item 2 is 20, item 3 is 30, item 4 is 40. So let's package this up into a block. And what I really want to make, my goal eventually, is to make a block that totals up all the values in the list. So I'm going to make a reporter block, even if I don't initially know kind of how to do the job right. So I'm going to make a list block. Total numbers in, and I'll leave a blank where I'll put my parameter for list. So total numbers in, and we'll call the input list again, just to refer generically to my list. And I'm going to specify that it only takes in a list. Once again, you can leave it as any type if you want, but I'm going to make sure it's real obvious that this takes a list. So here's my basic recipe. Right? I just really need to use that, only instead of saying, I don't want to say scores 2 in here because then this would only work for that one particular list. I want this to be a generic block that works for any list. So everywhere I see scores 2, I'm just going to wipe that out and put in list, which means whatever list we ask this block to work with. I total numbers in, and I get to specify which list to work with. So I'm going to click this for a second, report something. So right now he's not going to report anything useful. I'll just have him report 0 for now. He always assumes that the list adds to 0. So total the numbers in scores 2. He says 10, 20, 30, 40, and then he's done. Now, we are doing something a little bit ugly here. Ideally, a block should not depend on variables out there, especially as I start getting more complex. If this block is using that index variable, and I use that same variable name somewhere else, something called index, I could get myself into real trouble. So I'm going to show you a trick that I'm going to start using for blocks like this anytime I'm trying to go through a list, and that's to make what's called a script variable. And so that's right here. And a script variable, it's the same idea as a variable, only it doesn't appear out here on the stage, and basically the only place I can access this script variable is inside the script. So right now it says I've got script variable A. So I'm going to call this my index. And my index, once I've done that, I can use set my index, change my index, and instead of using index, I'm just going to use this new thing called my index. Now, this is a little bit trickier because I don't get to see my index out here, which makes it harder to keep track of what's going on. But what is nice is, like I said, this is kind of a self-contained thing. If I try and use my index out here, it'll try and do something with it, but basically this my index is particular to this block. Makes it a self-contained little unit, which is nice. Now, so if I make that change and I run the thing, he's going to do the same process, 10, 20, 30, 40, but the counter he's using to keep track of which item he's on, I'm not using this anymore. I'm just using that little counter that he made called my index. If I really want to see what's going on with my index, right, I could always do something like this and have him say what his current index is and then the item. Or I could even get a little fancier and say, let's do a join. Where'd my join block go? Item, my index, so that I can kind of see which one he's looking at. Item 1 is 10. Now he increments my index to 2. Item 2 is 20. Right, and he walks through the script, kind of announcing what he's doing. Now, I don't really need him to announce all that stuff. So I'm going to, let's edit that. And I don't really need him to say those things as he's going. So I'm going to break those two things out. And really, kind of all I want him to do is to go through and do my real job, which is total up the numbers. To do that, we are going to have to look at each number. And so kind of what is important from this is this idea of the way I say the current item in the list. Right? My index is how I say what item I'm on. My index is then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So item my index of list says the current item. Give me item 1, give me item 2, give me item 3, give me item 4. The way I say that is always something like item my index of list. So if I want to total up the numbers, really what I'm trying to say is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Only I don't want to list that out because then that would only work for 4 numbers, and I want this to work for as many numbers as I have. So I need to use my repeat. Instead of just saying the current number, I need to add it to a total. So I'm going to need a variable where we keep track of the total. Once again, probably the right way to do this is with a script variable. If I really wanted to, I could go make a variable out at the stage level that appears out here so I can kind of watch what's going on. But I'm going to do this with a script variable just so that, because really the total I'm building up, what I want to do is use this as kind of some temporary storage to build up a number, and then I want to return the answer. And after that, I don't need to keep this total around forever. So if I hit the arrow here, it makes another variable. I'm going to call this total. And kind of right at the beginning, when I get going, I want to set my total to be 0. Right? I don't have any numbers yet. And my index is 1. I'm on the first number. Now I'm going to repeat for however many numbers there are on the list. Get the current item, and so I'm having him say it, and I'll go ahead and leave him saying it for a second. And then I want to add the current number to the total. So if I want to change the total, right, I'm trying to modify the total, I probably want to say that as change. I want to change the total. I want to change it by whatever the current item is. And so once again, this block, item myIndex of list, that's how I say the current item. So he'll announce what the current item is, change the total by that much, and just so we can see what's going on again, let's have him say the total that he's seen so far. So I'm going to put in a say, put in a join, and total is, and have him say what the total is so we can see what he's doing. And then we need him to change myIndex by 1. That's basically how we say go to the next item. We just looked at item 1. Now we want to look at item 2. So we're going to run this on scores 2. He's going to walk through. Ooh, I see a 10. So my total is 10. I see 20. I'm going to add that to 10 and get 30. So that's my total now. Okay, I see a 30 next. Add that to my total. I get 60. And now the 40. Add that to 60 and I get 100. Now, he's announcing the right stuff, but if we watch the block here, at the end it still returns 0. It still reports back the 0 that I started with. I don't really care what he's saying. What I care about is what we're going to see right here when we try and announce the final result of this process. And that's, nothing comes out. So what I want to do is make sure that we report, when this gets done, that I report back whatever the total is. All right, and since I'm confident he's looking at the right stuff, I don't need those says at all, so I'm going to pull that one out and then do the same trick to pull that one out. I'm going to put them down here just in the main part so I can get them if I need them. But this is the bare essence. He needs to go through the list, get each one, add it to the total, and then change his index so he goes to the next item. Then he'll be working with that next item. My index will be the second thing. He gets that, adds it to the total, and then he goes to the third item. And when he's all done, the block reports that the total is 100. All right, if I try running this on plain scores to make sure that this block really is universal, 5, 6, and 8, that should be 11, 19. Sure enough, I get the right answer. And that's what we always like to see, is a block that'll work with any input I give it. I now have this nice generic tool.